Good evening, smart chicks. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm in a different part of my office because I got this new nice pink chair for the corner of the room. So I'm really excited about that, but I have to figure out the lighting now in the room. So I've got my little ring light behind the phone. Not sure if that's really doing anything. But hopefully it is. So tonight we're going to do an interview with Keesha. Hi, Tracy. And Keesha, I'm sure will be here momentarily asking to jump on. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Ellen. Oh, lots of people jumping on. Great. I'm so happy to see that. And Keesha is a recruiter, and she is going to talk to us tonight about working with recruiters to accelerate your job search and maximize your relationships with these often overlooked resources for finding a job. So I have some questions that, excuse me, have been posed in the group for Keesha tonight, and I have, some things I know that I wanted to touch on with her as well and talk to her about. And we'll go from there. And then, of course, if you guys have questions, as we're going through, I'm going to try to pay attention to this little scrolling news feed here on my phone, and we'll try to address those as well. So, hi, Lynn. So we're just waiting on Keesha, and hopefully she'll be able to pop on. Actually, it's just 7 right now, and I told her I was not going to come on early. So I'm sure she'll be with us in a moment. So we're going to talk about basically, not only how to work with recruiters, but kind of what they do and what they don't do. I think there's a lot of confusion with the different roles that different people play in the job search process. I find it even with my own role, there are a lot of people that don't understand what career coaches do. And, they think that career coaches are recruiters. I have people sending me their resumes thinking I'm going to find them a job. So, there's a lot of confusion, I think, around what different people do in different spaces. And even though I was a recruiter for many years, and obviously, I did a talk last week about, in Career Chat Live, about working with recruiters from my perspective, but I'm not currently working as a recruiter, right? I am not working as a recruiter in the pandemic. I am not working as a recruiter right now. It's only been a year. But I worked in the industries I worked in, right? And so I don't have all the answers. So hopefully Keesha will be able to join us in a moment. We tested this about 2 hours ago and it worked just fine. So hopefully it's going to work fine again. And since I'm on my phone, if she's texting me, I will not know that. So hopefully she is going to pop in any second. If not, I am going to start answering some of these questions myself. And then when she's able to pop in, hopefully we'll be able to get the interview going. Keesha, if you are there, you're going to need to pop in and ask to come on camera again. There she is. Oh, you're trying to join. Okay. So just, yeah, it's weird. Okay. So I see that you said I am trying to join, but I don't have the bring them on camera function with you right now. And I don't have a request for you to join right now. So, I guess whatever you did before is what we need to do now. And I think it's just that green button that you have to press. Do you have the green button? I don't see why you wouldn't, since you did have it earlier. I just love technology. I don't know if I'm going to do Facebook Lives anymore for interviews because they just are so difficult to get everything to work. And we even tested this earlier and it worked. So I don't know what more to do than test things to see if they work. I really don't. So, well, Keisha's trying to join. I don't know, Keisha, you might want to, just get out and go back in and see if that helps. That's really my only technical advice about anything always is to just reset, right? I'm always just like, unplug it, plug it back in. That's really all I know how to do. So I have no idea why there would be no green button if there was a green button before, because we're on a Facebook Live. Yeah, why don't you just try to get out and go back in again and see if that works. So So one of the things that, I wanted to, the reason I wanted to have Keesha come in and talk is because Keesha is currently working as a recruiter, during the pandemic, and also in addition to currently working as a recruiter, she's not in the same industry I was in, and she's also, doing this right now in a pandemic, and also has recently started a new job. So not only is Keesha a recruiter and a recruiter right now in the pandemic, she was also, I believe, a job seeker in the pandemic as well. So has that insight for us as well, right, as far as that's concerned. So hopefully she'll be able to join us in a moment. Yeah, I have no idea why your green button wouldn't be there now, and if it was there before, because you're on the, you're here. Everything is the same. So I don't know. I wish I knew why there would be any reason it wouldn't work right now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about some of the stuff here that we have in the questions, and start to talk a little bit about my take on some of this stuff, and then hopefully Keesha will be able to jump in and join us. So one of the questions, one of the things that always comes up with recruiters is, recruiters are seen as the gatekeepers. Oh, here we go. I think she can come in now. Excellent, excellent. She's coming. I think she's coming. It says she's coming. Here she is. Yay! Yeah! I'm telling you.
Finally. Oh, I'm
live gods do not like me when I try to do an interview on Facebook Live. I don't know why, but it's the worst. Okay, now you're turning sideways. You were right the first
okay.
way. Okay, yes, we see you. Thank the good Lord. Okay. My goodness. Okay. So Keesha, I was just kind of, as you probably heard, just trying to keep the audience warm here until we got you on. But so I'm going to let you introduce yourself and all that good stuff. But one of the things I was just, in looking at the questions that were asked and looking at the questions that people ask about recruiters all the time, they see recruiters very much as, the gatekeepers, right? Where they need to get past us to get, and in a lot of cases we are, right, the gatekeepers. So I have some questions here that came in, and also some things I wanted to ask you about as well, just to, and then of course we have people watching who may also have questions. So I'm going to let you just go ahead and just give us a brief little introduction, and then we'll get to it.
Okay, well, my name is Keesha Moore. I'm originally from New York City, and I live in South Carolina right now. I've been in human resources recruiting for the better part of 30 years in some aspect of human resources. I started out in recruiting, didn't even know what recruiting was. All I knew was that there was a director of human resources and he needed an assistant and I needed a job. So, so it was one of those opportunities where someone took a chance on me, and I learned recruiting and loved it. I finally finished college as an adult, went back to school with 3 children. Wow. And then, I had to make a decision about what it was I was going to do with this new degree. I had 30 years of experience and I didn't want to reinvent the wheel at this point. So I decided to go back to recruiting, and that's where I've been ever since. I've worked for global organizations. Sunoco is the international packaging company, probably one of the biggest packaging companies in the world. And they hired me as a temp. They hired me as a temp for 3 weeks, and I ended up staying there for 4 years. Cool. So, you should be encouraged by that because they didn't have a job for me. And they really just saw the value in what I brought to the table, and they created the sourcing role for me. So my job initially was to source for their open requisitions and also to be their social media specialist, because this was the time, it's almost crazy to hear it now, but Twitter was new, LinkedIn was not all of that. And, they needed someone to manage those technologies. So of course, I went and I learned those technologies because I didn't know about it either. But, just leveraging it to help them get to their ideal candidates faster. So, I've been in different industries. I've been in packaging. I've been in wood production. I've been in, I've been in staffing, staffing agencies. And I say that because the talent of the skill of recruiting doesn't matter what industry you're in. You pretty much, you have a recruiting process. So, a recruiter can pretty much recruit anything if they want to, if they want to expand into different industries, that kind of a thing.
Right.
They absolutely can.
Right.
So right now I'm an executive recruiter slash sourcer for Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. Everybody's familiar with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I actually got this role. I was at a staffing agency, and in March we were all furloughed. I was working from home at the time, but we were furloughed because the economy was, our client base was going downhill because they weren't hiring because of
Right.
COVID. So I sat home for a few months, entitled to unemployment. And then I got a call from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I made the decision to not wait for my job to bring me back or not. And I started with them 3 weeks ago. So yay. And, and since being with them, I've had a lot of opportunity to touch a lot of different roles that I've never touched before. But like I said, sourcing strategy and recruiting, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. They're amazed how I've gotten so many candidates, to interview with the hiring managers, because I know how to recruit. Right. And it's really not me so much, it's the candidates, and having candidates that are cooperative, right. Candidates that they want a new role as much as you want to find them a new role, but they will be communicative. They will, they'll give you details. They won't hem and haw when you ask them about compensation, those kinds of things. And those are the kinds of things that make you valuable to a recruiter. Right. A recruiter, there's no recruiter in the world that just has one job to fill. They have multiple jobs. Sometimes. So you're not wasting. Yeah. Sometimes to the extreme. And so, so never feel like you are wasting a recruiter's time. If a recruiter has reached out to you, it's because they see something in your background. They want to get to know you better. And if the role that they're talking about is not a perfect fit, believe me, another role will be coming around soon. So, a recruiter is not necessarily a vulture. And I know a lot of people think of us as vultures. We just want your resume. We want to put you in front of a hiring manager and go to the next role. But a really good recruiter is a partner, and they're a partner in your job search.
So one of the things that I pointed out last week, Keesha, when I did my career chat live about recruiting, though, was that the recruiter ultimately works for who pays them, right? I mean, you don't work for the client. You don't work for the candidate. But even though you don't work for the candidate, having that cooperative partnership with candidates and being respectful and being, listening, having good listening skills and caring about the candidates as people and as human beings who are looking to further their careers. So a recruiter who is a good recruiter, even though they're not working for you in the sense you're not paying them, right? They still should be good partners, and they still can be good partners. I mean, the whole point of, if there are no good candidates, then there are no jobs getting filled, and then the recruiter does not have a job anymore because they're not able to fill the roles, right?
Basically.
So I think you're right. I think that recruiters really get a bad rap. I think we can even see from some of the questions that were asked. I was kind of like chuckling a little to myself, just thinking about how much people sometimes just don't understand what recruiters do, and then therefore get really upset with them because they are the gatekeepers. So one thing I'd like you to do, Keesha, if you could just briefly define for the people that are listening, because I think this is where we get a lot of confusion. I said, before you signed on, I said, there's a lot of people that don't know what career coaches are. Here I am doing career coaching and bringing people into my group. And a lot of people don't even really understand exactly what career coaching is. So they really don't understand the difference between a sourcer, a corporate recruiter, an agency staffing recruiter, a headhunter, all these different terms, and they really mean different things.
They do.
They mean things that are a little bit different. So could you kind of just give us like a quick rundown of like what those different things mean, so people can kind of understand, like when someone contacts them, like who they are and what they are doing? If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll start from the bottom per se. So there are sourcers like myself. A sourcer's job is to find viable candidates for a certain position. So this is not the recruiter necessarily. This is the person that goes out and stalks your Facebook page, stalks your LinkedIn page, and really gets really good candidates for a particular role. A recruiter can get that person through the process. Now, a resourcer and a recruiter sometimes can be interchangeable in some organizations. Right. But a recruiter will get the person through the process, make sure they speak to the hiring manager, make sure the paperwork's done, make sure the application's done, those kinds of things, and schedule. They may have a coordinator, but they will schedule the subsequent interviews after the person has been deemed qualified. A headhunter or let me go to a staffing agency. So a staffing agency, they deal with clients who have a particular need. So these needs can either be temp to hire, or permanent placement. So a temp situation is like, I just need 2 people for 2 weeks to do X, Y, Z. A staffing agency can handle that. If they have a need that they're not sure if they want to hire right away, it could be a temp to hire situation. And there's a pay structure for each of these options. Lastly, a permanent placement is like, we know we need someone in this role. We're going to pay them X amount, go find that person. And the staffing agency will be paid by that client for finding the right person. It's usually a percentage of that first year's compensation. So that's where a lot of people feel like, recruiters are money grubbers, because it's like, they just want to have someone in that role just so they can get a commission. But I mean, that's not necessarily true. Good recruiters will want the right person in the right seat for the right client. Right. Corporate recruiters are a little bit different. They're on staff, like I'm on Blue Cross Blue Shield. If I fill 100 jobs or 100,000 jobs, there's no financial incentive except for my salary.
Right. You're a salary
to fill those
employee,
roles.
Right. But the thing with headhunters, though, and even with people, and I've never been a contingent-based headhunter, but I did work for staffing firms, so I did earn, additional compensation, for placing people. But the bottom line is, if you don't do a good job of placing people, the right people in the right jobs, yes, you may in the short term get a commission, but usually, especially in the case with headhunters, if you're getting a nice chunk of money, percentage of that person's first year salary, and they don't last, or they don't work out, or whatever, because you didn't do a good job, they're not going to use you anymore. So again, part of a recruiter doing a good job, even though they don't directly work for the candidate, is still having good relationships with candidates. And I always say, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter where the money is coming from. It doesn't matter, because you're not paying them as the candidate. You're not paying them. Yes. So you're not paying the recruiter. So it doesn't matter how they get paid. Their role always is to find the best qualified person for that position, as that client, whether it's an internal or external client, has deemed appropriate, right, has asked for. And the recruiter is the facilitator of that relationship, right? Of that process.
Absolutely.
Process, right. So thank you for that. That was helpful, and I'm sure gave some people a new idea. So one of the things that, so I'm going to read one of the questions. So how do you find, and I'm going to read it because, verbatim, but how do I find a recruiter or even a headhunter who appreciates a less traditional resume and has the experience to find roles for candidates who aren't fitting in every situation, in every scenario? So what I look at with that, Keesha, is that the person who's asking this question is really looking at the recruiter as somebody that's going to find them a job, which is really not the recruiter's role. The recruiter's role is to find people to fill existing roles. I look at this as a person needs to, and this is where I feel like I come in, someone in my type of role as a coach, that person needs help to make their resume position themselves well, right? They need to work on positioning themselves for the existing needs. So I guess how would you respond to that, as far as how somebody can find a recruiter that they think is going to work with them, in a, I think what a person is really asking here is, their experience doesn't really match up. So how does
Right.
that really, I mean, if it doesn't match up, it doesn't match up. So how can we find, I guess, another place for that person?
Okay, well, I'll answer that question by just like going by experience. I get a lot of emails of people asking me, "Do you have any jobs in Maryland?"
Right.
And it's like, I'm sure I might, I'm sure the company may, but that's not my job to find you a
Right.
job that you're qualified for.
Right.
That is not a recruiter's role. And that's why a lot of people get ticked off at recruiters, because they're not, I'm not your career coach. Carol, you're the one. I'm going to send them all to you.
Yeah.
But I think it all starts, your job search starts with you knowing what it is that you want to do.
Absolutely.
If you have a non-traditional role and it's really niche, you need to kind of figure out what it is that you want to do.
Right.
Because I'm not just going to throw you any job. You need to know what it is that you want to do. And then frame your search around that. Get a resume that's relevant to that area.
Right.
I mean, it's great if you made widgets, that were purple, but you have to find out if that's what you really want to do, and what companies need purple widgets.
Right.
And target those companies, target the headhunters that are in that industry. Most recruiters, if you go on LinkedIn, they specialize in an industry. Right. I worked in the paper industry. I worked in plastics. Right. Connect with those headhunters. Or recruiters, not even headhunters, recruiters. Because when you connect with them and they have an opportunity, the first place they're going to go is LinkedIn, and your background will come up if you have a well thought out resume focused on that industry, focused on what it is that you want to do. And if you don't know what it is that you want to do necessarily, go to LinkedIn and look for people that are doing the job that you want. People are really, really helpful in this area on LinkedIn. If you reach out and say, you know what, I want to go into sports management. I don't know where to start. I see you've been doing it for 2 or 3 years. Can you give me some information or give me some guidance on how I should, how I should form my resume, how I should do. People will really, really be helpful or give you resources if they don't know. So that's how, so I guess, but also too, from the author's standpoint, you have to kind of interview your recruiter too.
Right.
If a recruiter reaches out to you, you can ask them questions like, so how is this process going to work with your client? How many interviews am I going to have? When will I hear feedback? Put them on the spot.
Right.
If what should I, how should I reach out to you? Should I call you? Should I text you? Should I send you emails? I'm really interested in this opportunity, and ask those questions, and you'll get a feel for how that recruiter is going to treat you throughout the process.
Right. Right.
If they just, it's like dating.
Yeah. I always use
dating.
the dating analogy for everything.
Exactly.
True, though. You have to see, I always say, Keesha, at the end of the day, we're all just people, right? Companies are made up of people. Recruiters are people. Candidates are people. Hiring managers are people. We're all just people. And some people are nicer than other people. Some people are smarter than other people. Some people are happier than other people. Some people are doing a better job than other people. Some people care more than other people. So, are there bad recruiters out there? Of course. There's bad and good of everything in every walk of life and every.
Yes, exactly.
There are people that are good at their job, and there are people that are not good at their job. So I think what happens, though, is, and the reason I wanted to even have you come on and have this conversation is because I think it is really important for the ladies in the group to understand the rules of engagement, not only the value of working with recruiters, but what they can do for you and what they can't do for you, and what you need to do in order to have an efficient, an effective relationship working with them. And yes, so I agree with you, and I'm so glad that you said that. You should not be conducting a job search until you've targeted what you want. And I think right now we're seeing, and I understand it's a very emotional time. It's a very upsetting time with so many people unemployed. I'm sure you're really seeing that now. And I was a recruiter in, the past, in times where there were bad economic times, in 2008.
Yeah.
around that time, you know, there's a lot of people that feel very desperate because they need a job, they need money, they need to take care of their family. And that is a very imminent, scary, bad feeling. And I understand that from an emotional human standpoint, but that does not make all of these other things go away. It doesn't mean that now, because there's a pandemic, we don't have to target our resume. We, you know, and or now because there's a pandemic,
Right.
you know, and if anything, I feel like double down harder
Oh.
on the basics
Mm-hmm.
because there is so much competition. There are so
There's
many
so many.
people,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, who are applying for
That's
every
right.
role.
That's right.
You know,
That's
yeah.
right. And you know, and going back to the dating analogy, it's like how many ladies would like to go out with a guy who is just like totally desperate?
Right.
It it shows. I mean, it shows, and it's a turnoff, and
Right.
it's just like this in job hunting. I mean, I've done interviews, and you know, I've talked to people, and they said, "Oh, I'll do anything."
Right.
It's
Oh,
like,
Keisha, if I had a
really?
dollar for every time when I was a recruiter, somebody said to me, I'll do anything, I wouldn't even need to be doing this right now. I would be independently wealthy and retired. Because,
Absolutely. I tell you what I did. This one, I was talking to this one young lady. It was a customer service job, and she says, "I'll just do anything." I said, "Okay, come over to my house and mow my
right,
grass."
right,
It's like, "I'll pay you $10." I said, "You never say
right.
that in
No,
a
that's
job
not
interview."
true.
And then, you
Right,
know, I took the opportunity to show her how ridiculous she
right.
sound. And then I told her, you know, just don't say that. You
Ever.
know,
Right,
you have value. You have value.
right.
So don't sell yourself short by saying, I mean, like you said, if people are desperate, I understand that. But this is a good time, though. This is a good time. And people who are qualified or people who are thoughtful about the job search, they'll land
And they
somewhere.
are. I mean, there are so many women in Smart Chicks Career Club and among my clients in Career Happiness Studio and also among my one-on-one clients that are really, I mean, people are getting jobs left and right. And even a lot of people that I'm talking to on LinkedIn, you know, about my programs, a lot of people are writing to me, you know, and saying, oh, I just got a new job. I just got a new job, you know, so
Oh,
people
yeah.
are getting
Yeah.
jobs. I mean, is it
Absolutely.
a tough time? Yes. I mean, and I don't think any of us are negating that, but because it's a tough time, you know, we really have to be super laser focused. And I think another thing that you said that is, I think, so important, Keisha, is that reaching out to people on LinkedIn and doing that networking. I beat the networking thing to death in all my programs because so many people, even people who you would think would not be shy about doing that or would not, you know, be hiding and not want, oh, I don't want to talk to people, you know, are not
Yeah.
doing the networking thing. And I'll tell you, the clients that I have right now who are really listening to me and really doing that networking in a big way, like strategically doing it, finding the people in the area, in the industry, in the location, you know, really taking that
Yeah.
extra effort to do it. They are killing it with making contacts with quality
Absolutely.
people, killing it.
That's right. Absolutely.
A lot of
Absolutely.
people really are nice and are willing to help you. And I think, especially now in the pandemic, there are a lot of people
Yes.
who are employed or who are in positions of authority, right, around employment. They want to help people who are unemployed. They want to help people who are unhappily employed.
That's right.
You know, first of all, they want good people in their organizations. And then other people just, they like what they do and they like talking to other people about it. I mean, if somebody came to me on LinkedIn and said, Carol, I'm interested in becoming a career coach, I would love to talk to them about that because I like talking about that. It's fun for me to talk about that because
Absolutely.
I like what I do. Right.
Absolutely.
So I would talk to them. I
Absolutely.
mean, you know, am I going to give them 10 hours of my time? No. But if they want 30 minutes,
No.
sure, I'll talk to them, you know, help them out.
No,
Um,
absolutely.
and there's a lot of
Absolutely.
people willing to do that. So I think one thing that people need to understand, though, about reaching out to recruiters. So of course, recruiters reach out to you, right? Of course, and we all do that, and I'm sure you're doing that like crazy. But and then of course we also hear from recruiters when we actually apply for a posted position, and that recruiter who's working that position then calls us or emails us about, you know, moving forward in the process or having a phone interview or whatnot, right? But I'm really
Right.
encouraging my people in my groups to reach out to recruiters. So as you were saying earlier, find the recruiters, even not even just the people in the jobs, but find the recruiters in your industry, in your area, in, you know, excuse me, and reach out to them and form relationships, because these people have connections. They have, even though they don't work for you, they know a lot about the job market. No, they're not going to write your resume for you, but they know about the job market. They know about the market in that industry. They know about what's currently going on, right? And they can provide a lot of insight. And even if they don't have a job for you today, as you said earlier, no recruiter is working on one job. They also have colleagues in their company or in their staffing firm that are working on jobs that are different than their jobs, right? So
yeah,
by forming good relationships with recruiters, and sometimes even long-term relationships. I always say, if a recruiter has ever contacted me in my life when I've been looking for a job, I save their emails or their names and contact information, because if you had a good experience with that person, even if they had nothing for you at the time, when you're looking for a job, you have those people to reach out to now, to make a contact. And then some of those people even leave the job they were at and go somewhere else. If you find them on LinkedIn, you're like, oh, now they work for this other company. And I really like, maybe when they called me before, I wasn't interested in them because they worked for, the paper industry. Now they work in the cosmetics industry or whatever, and that's more interesting to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. I just lost my train of thought. Oh my God. It's the end of the day. I'm sorry.
No, it happens to me all the time.
But
I have another question, Keesha.
Yeah.
And this is another one.
And my thought will come back.
You're going to love this one too. So how do you handle recruiting for jobs you don't understand? And what this person really means by this is a job that you don't do. Well, I will tell you that I am the least technical person in the world. It's a wonder I can figure out how to do what we're doing right now and get my little ring light to work behind the phone. And I'm telling you, I know nothing about IT, nothing about engineering, nothing about science as far as me doing those jobs. And I was a scientific, IT recruiter for many, many years. So, and I did so successfully. So I know that it's very possible for recruiters to understand what it is somebody has to have on their resume, what it is somebody has to present, in order to know whether or not you should move them on, to the next role. So talk a little bit about, if you would, Keesha, about the recruiting process and how, because I agree with you. I feel like I could learn how to recruit any skill set in a reasonable period of time.
Yes.
How do you respond to that? Like somebody feeling that because you don't do that job, you don't understand.
Okay, so there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes before a recruiter should go out looking for the appropriate candidate. Right. So when we get a role, like I'm doing it from the staffing agency model, and it's kind of like that in corporate as well. We get the opportunity of knowing what the job is and how and what the role is. So let's say it's a mechanical engineer. I am so not mechanical, it's not even funny.
Right.
But I have a meeting with the hiring manager to find out what it is specifically that he is looking for. I ask pointed questions about how much experience this person has to have. What type of equipment does this person have to need? Does he need AutoCAD? What level of AutoCAD? I get those kinds of details, and a candidate doesn't know that. But I have a framework of the person that I'm looking for when I start looking for that person. So I don't need to know how to be a mechanical engineer. Is probably a good thing, but I know the skill set that they're looking for, and it's a matter of me understanding their skill set and if it's a culture fit. Hopefully I would know the client well enough to know what their culture is like. I want to know the benefits that the client is going to offer, because I have to sell that opportunity to the mechanical engineer, not just the mechanical engineer wanting the job. I have to know details on that level to have a conversation with someone I'm interested in for a role like that. So that's how I can, I have a job right now for a medical director,
Mm-hmm.
in genetic pathology. And I don't know what that job does. I know it's a doctor, but I also know the skill set that they're looking
Right.
for. And the hiring manager will make the determination if this person would fit in his organizations or not. The other point that I forgot that I just remembered is that dealing with staffing agencies, a lot of people will discount if they get a call from a staffing agency. They go in for the interview and they don't like it because it's an agency, so they just think that they're a warm body. Agencies have more than one client.
Right.
So, you should put your best foot
Mm-hmm.
forward with any recruiter, anybody you're asked to be in front of, and not just be really lackadaisical
Right.
about it and, wear flip flops to the interview just because it's an agency. These agencies have clients. And even if they don't have an opportunity for you, if you impress that recruiter at a staffing agency, they're going to remember
Yes.
you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll remember you. And they will definitely remember you for other opportunities. So, put your best foot forward while you're interviewing with anyone.
Right.
Phone, in person, or
Right.
anyone.
And it's interesting that you said that, because I always say when I talk about interviewing in any of the modules I do in Career Happiness Studio or any of the Facebook Lives I've done on that topic, I always say that when you're talking to anybody about a job, you're interviewing. Even if you're telling your
That's
neighbor,
right.
I need a job, or your friend, or your hairdresser, or anybody, because your positive attitude and your the way you present yourself, you don't know who anybody knows. You never know who anybody knows.
That's right.
So, right, you're always interviewing. And yeah, that's a very good point. I think, even honestly, even if you don't even like the recruiter at a particular agency, there's other recruiters at that agency that have other jobs with other clients. So yeah, it's always good to really, even if you think they're not being their best, for you to be the best you can be, in the process,
Absolutely.
the best candidate that you can be.
Absolutely. And recruiters have their own slate of requisitions. So you may not fit for this recruiter's job, but they know what the other recruiters
Right,
are working
right.
on. So they would know. It's like, hey, I talked to Keesha. She's not good for my job, but maybe you can use her on this job. And when you have a positive interaction with an agency recruiter, those things will happen.
Right. I think what happens too sometimes is that people don't realize, because the recruiters, since we were like the first line, that people deal with, they don't always realize that, to your point, we have these meetings with the hiring managers, right? Or the client, if it's a staffing firm, and we talk to them about their requirements, right? And what they want in a candidate. Unfortunately, once again, what are hiring managers? People. Are some people good at being a hiring manager and some people are not? Yes.
Yep.
So sometimes when a recruiter is out there and maybe it seems like they're floundering a little bit about the role, or not able to answer your questions, or they don't seem like they really understand the role that well, a lot of times it's because they are being tasked with finding people for this role, but the hiring manager or the client, in the case of the are not doing their part in the partnership of really giving that recruiter the information they need.
That's right.
But yet the recruiter is still responsible for presenting candidates. So that happens as well sometimes, and we're kind of just trying to do our best, right, to muddle through that. What are some of the things that a candidate can do, other than, and you touched on a couple, of course, being professional when they go on interviews and things like that. What are some other things, though, that candidates can do? And I have a couple in mind, do or not do, to stay in the good graces of recruiters when they're working with them.
Being responsive.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing more frustrating that I found, finding someone that will be perfect, and they don't return my phone calls in a timely manner. Hate that, because I may have the availability of the hiring manager, and I'm trying to schedule a meeting, and and I mean, I give them my text, my phone number, they could text me, they could email me, they could do it, there's multiple ways of getting in touch with me. So I kind of have that expectation, and I talk to my candidates before I even start dealing with them. this is a partnership and this is what we're going to do.
Right.
If I call you, you're going to let me, you're going to get back to me, as soon as you can. I'm not saying, if you're putting out a fire to stop to reach out to me, but, return my call. I don't want to waste your time, and I want to get you through this process. So having that mutual respect, I'm not just sitting around working with one candidate for one job. So if candidates understood that I have 16 jobs on my board and I'm talking to 30 different people for 30 different roles, if I call you, I promise to do the same thing, because that makes me accountable, right? So if they call me asking me about feedback and I don't have it, I'm going to get back to them and let them know I don't have feedback yet, but as soon as I do, I'll reach out. And that's one of the things that candidates like working with me about, like about me and working with me, because I've been on that side. I've been waiting for that call. So I have a really high level of empathy. So I don't want anyone to feel that. And, so I'm very, very cognizant of getting back to people, if they interview, I'm getting back to them within 24 hours, 48 hours on how they did. And if I don't know, I just don't know how they did. And I'll tell them that as well. So, just having that mutual respect and, and outlining what expectations. And like I said, candidates need to call recruiters onto the carpet and say, how long is it going to be before I hear back? When are you going to let me know something? Is there a better way? Is there a way that I can reach you if I don't hear from you? Or, how would you like for me to reach out to you? Those kinds of things. I mean, that will let a recruiter know that you're serious.
Right.
So, the things off the top of my head. And of course, having a relevant resume that's, well written, and don't have a recruiter guess. You have exactly 3.5 seconds.
Yes.
3.5. And I think, as I get older, that time frame gets smaller.
It gets smaller and smaller. I was just saying that the other day in my resume workshop I did in Career Happiness Studio. I used to say you have a minute. Then I used to say you have 30 seconds. Then I used to say you have 10 seconds. Yeah. You have a glance sometimes because of the number of
you have 3
that come across your.
Exactly. I tell candidates that recruiters scan. And they scan and look for highlighted points, and then they'll go back and read your resume. I'm not saying recruiters don't read resumes. It's like the way, if I'm going through 300, I'm scanning. I'm looking for keywords. I'm looking for a format that doesn't make my eyes cross. And because I had a resume, this gentleman, instead of having his jobs and his experience from, most recent to, furthest away, he had it the opposite way. And I stopped reading, because I thought this guy hadn't worked since 2006.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah.
And it's, but my scanning mind is not going to say, oh, I see what he did there.
Right.
And now I'll go back. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put it to the side. Don't have time. Don't have time.
And I think
so that's
and I think that's the point. It's not that recruiters don't want to be that thorough. You simply don't have time. The job is not structured so that you have that time. And especially now, I would think the amount of resumes that are coming in, during this pandemic with so many people unemployed for every role, and so many people applying for jobs that they are not qualified for. I call that throwing the spaghetti against the wall, to see what sticks. I'm sure you've experienced that as well. I've worked in companies where, people are applying for like 100+ jobs in the same company. Obviously these are big companies. There's no way somebody is the best qualified candidate for 100+ jobs. They're just applying for every job. And then when you ask the person,
you can blame Indeed and ZipRecruiter for that, because they have that one click apply. So, you have mechanics, applying to vice president's roles. I mean, and that kind of just goes with the territory.
But it's so ineffective to do that. And people think that, I'm sure this has happened to you, but in companies I worked for, people were actually flagged in the applicant tracking system as serial appliers. And you don't want that. You want to be known as somebody who has an idea of what they're doing. You don't want to be somebody who has a reputation for either not knowing what you want, or someone who wastes everyone's time with nonsense. And doesn't look good, right?
Absolutely.
Keisha, talk a little bit about, if you would, the salary question, because that is something that recruiters generally will try to screen for to make sure that there is some connection there, right, and not a disconnect between what a job might be able to pay and what a person is looking for. Can you talk a little bit about that and how candidates can work through that conversation? To their, I guess, to really to everyone's best.
Okay. Yeah, and that is the one question that everybody hates. What's your compensation expectations? And I mean, I talk to people who are making 145 to 200 and something $1,000 a year, and they don't necessarily want to pigeonhole themselves to a number by telling me. And this is exactly what I tell them. What you say to me is not written in blood. But I need to know, because I know the highest dollar amount the hiring manager is going to pay. They don't know that I know that. I'm not going to tell them that number. I'm not going to tell them that number. But I need to know where they are presently. And that's usually a good guideline. So if they're asking you what your compensation expectations are, you can always say, well, right now I am making X amount. I'm making $15 an hour. I'm making $20 an hour. And, and so in my head, I know what the client is willing to pay. And if it's close enough, we can still have a discussion. And, we don't have to be sitting next to each other, but we need to be in the same ballpark. That's my analogy for that one. So, we need to be in the same ballpark, because if you're expecting to make $500,000 a year, we can stop this conversation right now. So as long as, and if the recruiter has done a good job of matching a person closely to the role, they're going to be within a range, of the salary that they're willing to pay. And of course, you always want to give the hiring manager, as a recruiter, you want to give the hiring manager some leeway, just in case they really like this person. They'll have something to sweeten the pot, compensation wise. So we're not trying to lowball you at this point. We just want to know what it is that you're making now compared to what we know that this hiring manager is going to pay. Because people are like, well, how much does it pay? I have gone back and forth with a lot of candidates. They're like, oh no, you tell me how much they're, the maximum amount that they're paying. It's like, I don't have to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that.
And I always would say it's impossible to tell someone that, because you're just not far along in the process yet. You don't even really know if the person is really the best fit for that level of position, right? Just really don't know yet. And they don't know enough about you, and you don't know enough about them. So you're really just trying to get a general idea. And as far as the low...
Oh God, you must have been like in my office today, because I had that very conversation saying that, you don't know what this job is going to entail. I could agree at $90,000 to give you this job, and then you walk into a cluster or something that is absolutely horrible, you working 90 hours a week, you have no life balance. You have to consider everything. And when you
don't know
talking
about
like
the benefits yet, you don't know.
Exactly.
You just don't know enough. But I think the one thing that you said that I always like to point out is that whole lowballing concept, because I think, again, a lot of people are very cynical, and maybe they've dealt with people in the past who have, some people who have not been honest or who have not been ethical in their working. But I feel like if somebody is trying to lowball me, I don't want to work there anyway. Like, if somebody can't have an honest conversation about this, and I'll tell you, every company I've ever worked for, there have been people who've given a salary that is actually too low for what they're applying for, and we actually offered them more than what they were asking for, because it needed to be equitable for that level in the company with other people in that compensation band. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and we could talk about that all day. But yeah, I was just interested in your take on that as well. Before we end this call, there was one more thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is a really sticky one. But tell me how you feel about the people, and how we shouldn't do this. The people who accept the job and then renege on the offer because they got a better offer right before they started the new job that they said they were going to take.
Oh, in the words of a former vice president that I work for, those people should be dragged into the street and shot.
Yeah, it's tough though, because obviously people, and I think we've all been on the other side of it, right? And if somebody is offering you something more and better, sometimes it's really hard to not take it, because we all need to do what's best for us. But I think we have to keep in mind, if we want the recruiters and the hiring managers and the companies to be ethical with us in their dealings with us, we have to be ethical with them. And I think that
Absolutely.
it's one thing if something like that happens and it's something that is just too good to be true. You can't pass it up. You have to renege on an offer. I mean, I don't think, we're not going to take you out in the street and shoot you, but or blackball you or whatever. But there are a lot of candidates that play a game, where they lie to the recruiter and tell them they have other offers. They try to stall because they just want to interview for other they want to go to more interviews. And they're, the company needs to get somebody in the job. They need a butt in a seat doing a job, right? And the longer they don't have that, they're creating a problem for them. So there's a balance here between, I always say, like, you can't only look at what's in it for me. You have to look at it as a partnership. And, if you play a lot of games like that, I always feel like even if you get the job, you're kind of starting the job on a bad note. You're starting off on a bad note.
Well, and what I tell people and what I tell my candidates, it's like, you can tell me anything. So even if it's up to the day, I mean, I've had people who didn't show up for orientation after they've accepted the offer.
That's really bad. Just not showing up.
Just say,
there's
something.
no excuse for that. That one, I definitely agree with your former vice president. Yeah, because there is no excuse for that, right? No show is absolutely completely unethical. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we need to.
And what people don't realize, I'm sorry, and what people don't realize is if you do that to Blue Cross Blue Shield, or if you do that to a major company, you're tagged.
Right. Everyone knows that now. Right.
Yeah, and you can never apply for another job because everybody will see it.
Right.
Yeah, everybody will see it. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to burn that bridge, obviously. But I mean, people will do what people do, and especially in manufacturing, they will quit a job for another job paying $1 more.
I know. And and again, like I said, on the one hand, like you have to get some of this because people do need to do what's best for themselves. But I think that people need to balance that out in the way they handle, the way they conduct themselves, and the way they treat the people, on the other side, because they want to be treated well.
They want to be treated well. Exactly. Right. Absolutely.
Keesha, is it okay if other questions come in after the call and after people watch this on the recorded Facebook Live? Obviously, this recording will be available right away. So if any other questions come up, I will reach back out to Keesha and see if we can get those questions answered for you. And, Keesha is also a member of Smart Chicks Career Club. Yay, that's how we met. So, we have a lot of smart chicks here, and I'm always looking at you guys as well as people who, you never know when I might invite you to speak, because depending on what you know and what I see you knowing, I might want you.
That's right. Absolutely.
As well. Keesha, thank you so much for making the time to meet with us. I know you have long, busy days. I know what it's like. Go all day, and here you are in your evening time meeting with us. So I really appreciate you being here. I wish you the best of luck in your new position. It sounds like you're killing it already. And I'll let you know.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
I'll let you know if we have any more questions when we hear from the ladies. So everybody have a wonderful evening. And thanks again, Keesha. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Bye.